You know, most of the time, flat earthers will repeat what they've heard other flat earthers say. And sometimes, just sometimes, they'll come to their own conclusion about things. Like this.
Come to the conclusion that daylight and sunlight are two different lights.
I mean, what the... Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Flat Earth Friday with me, Simon Dan. Thanks very much for joining me. Before we begin with today's video though, I was reading earlier how the interstellar comet 3I Atlas that zoomed past Earth could be the oldest and coldest object ever to be in the solar system. And I was reading that story on Ground News, which was actually founded by a former NASA engineer called Harleen Kaur who works on the James Webb Space Telescope. Now, Ground News combines stories and articles from thousands of outlets, local and national, in one place so readers can see the full picture of what's being reported around the world. As you can see here, Ground News shows you if there's any political leanings for each publication. And in this instance, with the comet story, we can see that it's mainly centre driven with 46 total news sources. Now, for every story, you get a quick visual breakdown of the news outlet that's covering it, what their political bias is, how factual the source is, which entity owns the source, and which countries are covering the story. Now, Ground News is also gaining notoriety for its work. They were recently recognised by the Nobel Peace Centre for their impact on media literacy, saying it's an excellent way to stay informed, avoid echo chambers and expand your worldview, which is exactly why we use Ground News here too. You can see every side to every story with access to international perspectives that are hard to find, so then you can make informed decisions where you can read, watch and share the best information available. And Ground News is mission centric. It's not about eliminating bias, but providing better transparency. And they're funded by the community, not by big ads or investors. So go to ground.news/Simon to stay fully informed on breaking news and compare coverage. Click the link in the description for 40% off unlimited access if you support the mission and find it as useful as I do. Right then, on with today's video, which comes from Terry R. Eicher. Now, as you saw from the intro, he's come up with some incredible new science. Shall we hear what he's got to say? Yeah, let's get on with it, shall we? Here we go.
To the conclusion that daylight and sunlight are two different lights. Just as the Bible says, sunlight being the light we see when we look at the sun, a yellowish white light that is direct light, a line of sight light, the cause of shadows. The second light is daylight, which is a diffused light, a glowing, scattered light with limited range, which consists of many visible different colors.
Yes, there is direct sunlight, and yes, there is diffused daylight. But what light exactly do you think is being diffused, Terry? Photons leave the sun and travel through space. When those photons enter Earth's atmosphere, many continue straight through, giving us direct sunlight and sharp shadows. Others collide with atmospheric molecules and are scattered in all directions. That scattered sunlight is what we call daylight. The atmosphere acts like a giant diffuser panel.
Once you get above the ozone layer, 12 to 18 miles up, the invert gases will separate according to the atomic weight. Helium, neon, and argon all rise above the ozone layer and layer out themselves.
My word, you got so much wrong in that one sentence, it's not even funny. The ozone layer is not a physical barrier. It's just a region of the atmosphere where ozone happens to be more concentrated. The atmosphere remains well mixed for tens of kilometers above the ozone layer. Nitrogen, oxygen, argon, all those trace gases, they remain mixed because the atmosphere is constantly being stirred by winds and turbulence. Now, scientists do sometimes observe some separation by molecular mass at extremely high altitudes, beginning around 100 kilometers above Earth. But this occurs far above the ozone layer, and the transition is gradual, not the perfectly stacked layers that flat earthers imagine.
Now, the diffused light, which you see here, comes from these layers of invert gases that separate in the perfect, calm, and absolute cold once high enough.
See, I was going to let it slide that you called inert gases invert gases, but you did it again, Terry. It's just not a good look, is it, when you're trying to tell us that daylight and sunlight are two different things?
And the electromagnetic field of the close passing sun is exciting these inert gases. And these gases, when excited, emit photons, which you know is light.
Of course, your problem with this is twofold, Terry. Argon is the only significant noble gas present. and it makes up less than 1% of the atmosphere. Helium and neon exist only in trace amounts. Also, if our sky was glowing because excited inert gases were emitting light, we'd expect the atmosphere to resemble a giant neon sign, with very specific colours. Instead, the spectrum of daylight matches scattered sunlight perfectly.
Now, if you change the voltage, temperature, the pressure, or its elemental neighbor, and you change the color and intensity of the diffused light. Now let's focus on electricity and argon. Argon and neon are the third and fifth most abundant element in the composition of air. There is more argon than neon, and there is more neon than ozone, methane, and carbon monoxide combined.
Yes, argon is the third most abundant atmospheric gas. So what though? Nitrogen and oxygen still make up 99% of the atmosphere, and daylight still contains the sun's spectral signature. If argon and neon were indeed creating daylight, the spectrum of daylight would look totally different. But it doesn't. And saying that neon is more abundant than ozone doesn't help your argument. Ozone isn't responsible for daylight either.
Now, all of the colors that you see here can be produced with just neon.
Saying all these colours could be produced by neon is a bit like saying all these colours can be produced by a box of crayons. It's true, but it doesn't mean crayons are responsible for the sunset. You need some actual evidence, my friend.
The full spectrum of light with all the noble gases. Now, the shadow here is actually a convergent line, and under that you have the edge of the electromagnetic field and then the edge of daylight.
Flat earthers love renaming things, don't they? The Earth's shadow becomes a convergence line, and before long you've created an entire new vocabulary without actually explaining anything. And also, electromagnetic fields don't produce visible horizons in the atmosphere. If they did, I think we'd have noticed by now.
Now, I also don't believe that daylight is a perfect circle surrounding the sun either.
Nobody is claiming that daylight is a perfectly circular spotlight surrounding the sun. Daylight, as we've said, is simply scattered sunlight, and the distribution depends on atmospheric conditions, the sun's angle, altitude, and observer's location.
Because daylight will take the shape of the electric and magnetic fields that it is within. Now, notice also here the sun disappears into the horizon, not below it. Now, this is because of perspective, and the daylight eventually drowns out the sunlight. You are looking lengthwise through the layers of photons. And this explains the colors, the layers, the range, the abrupt termination lines, receding light, and so much more. All you need are noble gases and an electric current.
We've now reached a stage where sunlight is apparently drowning out sunlight. At this point, I think even the photons are confused. Photons are not little particles floating around in horizontal atmospheric strata. They are constantly moving electromagnetic radiation. The hallmark of pseudoscience is not that it uses scientific words. It uses a lot of scientific words without ever producing measurements, predictions, or testable mechanisms. Layers of photons may sound impressive, but unless you can measure these layers and predict their behaviour and show they exist, you've simply replaced one explanation with a much more complicated story.
Now, those of you who think you see a curved Earth here, the curve you observe here is the light, not the Earth. That's right, yes, I said the light is curved, not the Earth.
Okay, let's assume for a moment that the visible curve is entirely the light and not the Earth. We still need to behave why that curve behaves exactly as an Earth curve does, which I hope now is what he's going to try and do.
Now, the reason the light curves is because the field curves, which is what I'm fixing to demonstrate for you here. Now, for those of you who don't know, another property of ionized gas is a magnetic field, which means the electromagnetic field of the sun is pulling on the fields of the Earth as it passes. The magnetic field also increases the brightness when interacting with the ionized field. Now, the light is transparent, but when you concentrate and intensify the discharge of photons, it becomes impossible to see through.
Nobody disputes that magnetic fields can affect ionized gases. The issue is whether that is what's producing the curved daylight you talk about, and every measurement we've ever made says it isn't. You do realise though that the sun's magnetic field here on Earth is in the nanotesla range. That has been measured and it's incredibly weak. But I'll give you a chance, Terry, I'm feeling generous. Can your little model there reproduce the spectrum of daylight, including the sun's Fraunhofer absorption lines? Because if the answer is no, and it will be, then your model fails immediately.
And that's also why you do not see the color blue once you get above the Earth's atmosphere, as you can see here at 120,000 feet. And that's because that blue neon color comes from the noble gases that the Earth's atmosphere is made up of.
Oh, you mean the 0.9% of Earth's atmosphere made up of noble gases? It feels like they're doing an awful lot of heavy lifting when it comes to this creating daylight.
As the sun passes over those noble gases, it excites the photons in those noble gases, causing the different neon colors that you see. But the only reason you see blue and all the other colors is because you're standing on the Earth looking up. You cannot see the blackness on the other side of the atmosphere when the sun is passing through the atmosphere, exciting the photons in the noble gases.
And we've got a perfectly good explanation for that already, Terry, one with evidence. We can measure the atmosphere directly, measure the scattering properties of nitrogen and oxygen in the lab, predict the colour and polarisation of the sky mathematically, and compare those predictions with observation. The agreement with that is extraordinarily good. This isn't an assumption, it's a measured and tested phenomenon. Meanwhile, Terry has nothing. And that is where we're going to wrap up another Flat Earth Friday. Please do let me know in the comments below what you thought of Terry's video today. As I say, we're all done and dusted for another one. Thanks so much as ever for watching. If you enjoyed it, please do consider subscribing to the channel, hitting the thumbs up button too. Just enough time to once again thank Ground News for sponsoring today's video. Remember, go to ground.news/Simon to stay fully informed on breaking news and compare coverage. Just click the link in the description for 40% off unlimited access if you support the mission and find it as useful as I do. I've been Simon Dan. Have yourselves a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow for another Saturday session. See you then.